In this video, we're gonna be able to create our example, so each specific user is gonna be able to create our specific examples. In this case, in MongoDB, in the database, I have user 1 and user 2 only. So this is a continuation of the API front-end project series, so you can check out this playlist. And right now we're gonna open the terminal, so we can go into VS Code. So I'm gonna type in ls, I'm gonna go into my express folder, I'm gonna go into ls again, and I'm gonna go into API, and then code space that, so I can open it in Visual Studio Code. Okay, so we are in the front end, and first of all we're gonna go real quick to the back end. We're gonna go into controllers, and this time we're gonna be using the example controller. So let me see, we have this function get example, that's fine. Make sure that you bring in both models, example model and users model, and then we are gonna go into the, let me see, post, so we can create, and we're gonna have this function post example. Okay, so we have the request users.id and the request.body text. So yeah, everything is fine here. So we're gonna go into the models. So this is the backend, and if you have some question, you can go into the API backend project series and you can check out those videos. So we're gonna go into the example model and make sure that we have users and we have text, and user has type that is set to Mongoose, that is schema that types that object ID, and then we're gonna work with the text, and then we have the timestamp. So we have that in the backend, so we're good in the backend. So right now we're gonna go into the front end, and we're gonna go into components, and we're gonna go into examples form that we were working in the previous video. So right now what we are gonna do is just in this unsubmit button, or in this unsubmit function that we created for this form, we have the e-dat. Okay, so it is assigned to this error function. We have the e-dat prevent default, so that's fine, and we brought in the use dispatch here, so that's fine too. So we're gonna use it, so we're gonna have dispatch, we're gonna have dispatch, and we are gonna dispatch a function. Okay, dispatch, no, not dispatch event, so it's gonna be just dispatch. We're gonna dispatch a function that we haven't created yet, but the name is gonna be create, and it's gonna be create examples, like that, with camel notation. And inside of the parentheses of this function create examples, we're gonna have an object, and we're gonna pass in the text, like that. So we are dispatching this function named create examples, and we are passing in this object as text, and we are able to use dispatch because we brought it here as the as use dispatch from the React Redux, and we initialize. So we haven't initialized it yet, so we need to initialize it. So we go right here and we just name it counts dispatch. So dispatch, and we are assigned to use dispatch and with parentheses. So we have that, we have the function dispatch, and we set it to use dispatch, and we are able to dispatch this function create examples, and we are passing an object here, text. And if we go into the backend, if we go into the model, into the example model, we are using users and text. We are using users, so when we log in with a specific user, let's say user 1, the text or the examples that user 1 creates is going to be connected to that specific user. So user 1 is going to create some specific users that is going to be different from the examples of other users. So we have that. And now after we do that, after we dispatch, we're going to use the set text that we have here, that we brought it from the use state, and we are gonna set it to an empty string. So it's gonna be use set text, and we're gonna set it to an empty string, like that. Okay, so we have that up to this point. So let's press Ctrl plus tilde, and let's npm run example, so we can open the backend, And also let's open another terminal, and it's gonna be npm run front, so we can open the front end, and it's gonna open it in localhost 3000, and our server, our backend, is gonna be in localhost 8000. So we're gonna have that. Let me see, create example is not defined. Okay, that's fine. We're gonna control shift I, and we are gonna go into Redux tools. So we have that. So let me see, we have they're giving us this error, create example is not defined. Okay, so we're gonna define it. So I just wanted to open the backend and the front end, so let's close the components and let's go into features. Let's go into the example folder, and let's go into the example slide file. So we have that, and let me see. Okay, so we are bringing create a slice and create AsyncThunk, so that's fine. In the previous video we created this, the initial state, we created our create slice, we have the reset, set to the state, and then set to the initial state, so we are fine up to this point. Let me see, what else do we need here? Okay, so what we are gonna do right now is we're gonna export it. So we're gonna go just, let me see, let's go above here, and okay, so we have exported. Let me see, create examples, state. So we're gonna go here, and we're gonna use the create AsyncThunk. So this is gonna be export, and we're gonna export const, and the name is gonna be create example. Oh, let me see, where was the name? When we go to the examples folder, the name was create example. So yeah, it's gonna be create examples, camel notation, and it's gonna be create AsyncThunk. So we're gonna assign it to, or set it to the create AsyncThunk, and we're gonna pass in the name of this global state, that is examples like that, and then just gonna be create, or you can put a create example, so that's fine. So we're gonna put in a comma, and as a second argument we are gonna have an asynchronous function. Okay, so we're gonna have an asynchronous function like this, and this asynchronous function, let me see, we're gonna set it to an arrow function as well, and this asynchronous function is gonna take in the user info. It's gonna take in the user info, that is a variable info, and also it's gonna take in the Thunk API. So it's gonna take in the Thunk API, and let's save it for now. And if you go into the, let me see, if we go into just Google and we go, let me see, it was just Thunk API, and we go into the create AsyncThunk. We already saw this, but let's just Control F and just Thunk API, and it's gonna be this one. So we have the Thunk API, an object containing all of the parameters that are normally passed to a Redux Thunk function, as well as additional options. So we have the dispatch, the Redux store dispatch method, we have the get state, the Redux store get state method, we have the extra argument given to the Thunk middleware on a setup. If available, we have the request ID, a unique string ID value that was automatically generated to identify this request sequence. We have the signal, and abort control that signal object that may be used to see if another part of the app logic has marked this request as needing cancellation. We have the rejected value that we were using it, and inside the parentheses we're having the value, and inside brackets the meta. Reject with value is a utility function that you can return or throw in your action creator to return a reject response with a defined payload in meta. It will pass whatever value you give it and return it, and the payload of the rejected action. If you also pass in meta, it will be merged with the existing rejected action.meta. And finally, we have the fulfill with value, and also pass the value, but it's passing the meta without the brackets. fulfill with values a utility function that you can return in an action creator to fulfill with a value while having the ability of adding to fulfill action.meta. And then we have the logic, and the payload creator function may use any of these values as needed to calculate the result. So this is in the Redux toolkit, and we're going to be using that. So we have the Thunk API, so we have that up to this point. Let's just move it maybe like that. And what else are we having here? Okay, this is an arrow function. Inside of the curly braces we're gonna have our try catch like this. And for the error we can just go into the users folder, into the features folder, and just grab this part here, but because it's gonna be the same, let's just grab it and let's just go here and just paste it. So for in our try catch, for our catch statement, we're gonna have this message, and we're gonna set it to the error.response and error.response.data and error.response.data.message. So it's pretty much the similar. We have the error.message and we have the error to stream, and then we're gonna return Thunk API that reject with value and passing in the message as we saw in this information here. But this one is going to be different. So we have the user slice. We are now going to return away user server register and passing the user. So this one is going to be a bit different, because if we go into the backend, if we go into our routes, into our example routes, these ones are protected. So we were using the middleware, we created the secure middleware function, and these ones are protected. Once you're logged in, these routes are protected, so we're gonna be needing the token to access. Okay, so the examples, we're gonna go here into the example, and now in the try statement, what we are gonna do is we're gonna create a variable named token, and we are gonna set it to the Thunk API. We're gonna have the Thunk API. Let me see. Okay, first of all, we're gonna go here and we're gonna return, and we're gonna await. We're gonna return. We're gonna await for the examples. It was example servers. Okay, so it's gonna be examples servers. Okay, I have it here. We're gonna wait for the example server. We don't have it yet, but we're gonna create it. So we're gonna wait for the example server, and inside of that example server we're gonna have a function named create examples like that, and we're gonna pass in the what was it? It was user info. So we're gonna pass in the user info, and also we're gonna pass in the token. But the token is in the global state user. So to grab the token, what we can do is pretty much have this variable token, set it to the Thunk API, and use the get state. So we're gonna use in this method, and we have it here: get state, get rejected, fulfill, get state. So we're using this, the get state, the Redux store gets method. So we're using that, and we are okay. So we are getting the state. So in the state that we're gonna be looking for is users. Users. Inside of the global state users, there's gonna be the users. I name it users. You can name it user if you want, but I name it users, and inside of that is gonna be our token. So like this, and we can save it. So we have that up to this point. And let me see what else do we need here. So yeah, everything examples servers, and example servers. So we need to bring it here. So let's import it. So let's import examples servers like this. So we need to bring examples servers, and we're gonna bring it from, and it's gonna be from example servers like that. We don't have it yet, but we're gonna create it. So we're gonna move in, and we're gonna go into the examples, no, this one, example servers. Okay, so we have that up to this point. Let me see. Okay, what else do we need here? What else? Okay, we're gonna import Axios, so it's gonna be import Axios from just Axios, like that. And let me see. Okay, that's fine. We're gonna create a variable here, so we're gonna create const. It's gonna be API underscore users or examples, and we are gonna set it to, it's gonna be API slash examples, and we're gonna end it with a forward slash, or API examples. Okay, we have that, and below we're gonna create the variable that is gonna be examples. It's gonna be create examples. So it's gonna be create examples and create. Okay, let me see, create examples, and we're gonna assign it to an asynchronous function. We're gonna assign it to an asynchronous function that is gonna take in, let me see, we're gonna have like this, and then curly braces, and it's gonna take in the user. Okay, it's gonna take in the user info. It's gonna take in the user info, and also it's gonna take in the token, like that. And okay, so below we're gonna have in this variable name configuration. Then we're gonna have a configuration, and we are gonna set it to an object, and in this object we are gonna have in the headers. Let me see, we're gonna have in the headers. Okay, so colon curly braces, and we are gonna have the authorization. It's gonna be authorization, and we are looking for backsticks, and it's gonna be better, like that, better $, and then the token, like that. Because when we go into Postman, if you go into headers or if you go into authorization, we have the authorization. That's what we are trying to access, headers, authorization, and then we're looking for the bearer token. So there is where you would put in your token. That is what we're trying to access, the token. Okay, so outside of that, we're gonna go below, and we're gonna have the response. So when we go here into the examples slice, we are using this variable response, as you can see here. So we're gonna use it here. You can name it response, reply, whatever. We're gonna name a response like this, response, and we are gonna assign it to await. So this is an asynchronous function, so we are gonna await for Axios, and we're gonna create, so it's gonna be a post request. Okay, so Axios is pretty similar to the Postman, so in this case we're doing a post request, and inside of the parentheses we're gonna pass in three parameters. First of all, it's gonna be the API, so it's gonna be API examples. Second is gonna be the info, so it's gonna be the user. Okay, this one, the user info, and finally it's gonna be this variable, the configuration, like that. So we're gonna pass in these three arguments, and we are gonna return. So we're gonna return the response that data. So the data is put in this object here named data. And let me see what else we need here. So we have that. Okay, so yeah, pretty much now we need to export it. So it's gonna be const, and we're gonna export. Okay, so it's gonna be example server. So this is the name of this file, example server. So we're gonna export it, and what we want to export it is gonna be in an object, and we just, for now, we want to export the create examples function, okay, without parentheses, and then we just put in export default. So it's gonna it's gonna be export default. So it's gonna be export export default, and then the name of our example servers, like that. And we're gonna save it, And what else do we need? That, and again, this is pretty similar. So, and the package, the JSON of the front end. So this is the package, the JSON of the front end. We have a proxy, and we have set in it to localhost 8000. And in here we have this API underscore examples that we are setting it to the, it's gonna be localhost 8000 slash API slash examples. And the reason what we are doing that, if we go into the backend and if we go into the routes, if we go into the user routes, now if we go into the server, so we have two routes. We have the API slash users, and also we have the API slash examples. And if we go into the user routes, we have the login. The user data is not important, but we have the slash that is to create, to register, and then we have the slash login that is to log in. But the example route, these are the ones protected. That is the reason we have to pass in the token in this case. So what else do we need here? Okay, so let me see. Error examples that form create example is not defined. Let me see. Okay, so we have examples form, and then we have create examples is not defined. Let me see. Let's close this one. Let's close that one. Examples form, and let me see in the examples form. What do we need here? So create. What is the error? Create examples is not defined. Create examples is not defined. So let me see. Create examples. We have, oh, okay, so we have created it. We have created this function, create examples, and we created it in the examples that is slides, but we need to bring it in. So we just need to import it. So it's gonna be import, and it's gonna be create. Let me see. Create examples like that. Okay, and we just bring it from the, let me see. Okay, it's gonna be features, it's gonna be examples, and it's gonna be examples slice. So let me see, features, examples, example slice. So if we go here, okay, so everything is fine. So let's log in, log out, and let me see in users. So we have user 1, user 2, and user 3. So let's create user 3. So we only have two users right now, user 1 and user 2. So let's create user 3. Okay, let's register first. Name is going to be user 3. Email is going to be user 3 at gmail.com. The password 1 2 3 4 password. Let's send it. And okay, so we have the user, we have user 3, we have the token, that's fine. And in examples, okay, this one is empty, and let's just put in first example. Let's add it, and let me see, create pending and create fulfill. So okay, oh, we still need to work in our extra reducer, so we haven't created our extra reducers yet. So that's what we need to be working on it. So let me see, if we go into examples, we have nothing. Oh, okay, so I did it. Okay, so we have the first example here. As you can see, we don't see it like in the Redux toolkit, but we were able to see it in the first example here. Let's go. We have user 1, user 2, and user 3 now. Let's create another one. Let's modify it. Let's go into the navigation. It's going to be examples. Let's like that. Let me see if it looks better. Okay, example. Let's say second example. Let's add that second example, and we are not able to see it in the global state examples. Why? Because we still need to work in the extra reducer. So if we go into the examples slice and we go into here, and we are gonna create our extra reducers. But first, let me see if we went on. If we go into examples, we should have first example and second example, and let me see, the users is gonna be this user that ends up with E1 before, so it's gonna be user 3. Let me see, E1 before, it's gonna be E1 before. So yeah, user 3 has created these examples. So we have that. We are not able to see it in the Redux toolkit because we haven't created the extra reducer. So let's create it like that. So extra reducer, so this is a function that is gonna take in builder, it's gonna take